Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Julie Decker, President and CEO of the FSU Alumni Association. Thank you so much for joining us this evening at our Demystifying Admissions webinar. We are delighted to have you here and to learn all about the admissions process to Florida State University. For many students, the Florida State University experience begins long before their first day on campus, and preparation for college applications starts as early as freshman year of high school. So today, as a preeminent university, ranked 19th among national public universities, we continue to break records for first-year applications submitted. Just this past spring, you may have heard, we saw nearly 75,000 first-year applicants for 6,200 spots in the fall 2022 admissions group. Today, we're excited to partner with the Office of Admissions to provide you with an inside look into the undergraduate process at the university. Now, a few housekeeping items for you joining us. If you could, be sure your phone and computer is on mute. We have a Q&A box for questions, and we will take some Q&A at the end, so you can use that box to type your questions. And this webinar will be posted to the FSU Alumni Association website by the end of the week. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenter for this evening, Hege Ferguson, Director of Admissions at Florida State University. Originally from Norway, Hege has received both degrees from Florida State, a Bachelor in Arts in International Affairs in 1997 and a Master's of Arts in Social Sciences in 2003. Working her way up from a student employee, Hege has been an advocate and servant of Florida State admissions for 27 years. We're thankful for her willingness to share her expertise with us this evening. Hege, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you. Welcome.
Thanks, Julie. It's a great opportunity for me to be here. And I'm excited to be able to share a little bit about my world, dealing with admissions on a daily basis for almost 30 years now. And it's something that I'm really passionate about and I just really, really love. So we're going to just kind of run straight into it because we have a lot of different things that we want to cover. And so one of the things that we mentioned earlier was just being able to, and just hold for 1 minute while I start this one. Is it just, there we go. As Julie said, you know, we got reaffirmed again for being in the top 20 public universities. And that is something that has really caught on, not just only in the state of Florida, but also really nationally. And so we are now seeing a record number of applications. In fact, since 2016, we've had more than 169% in applications. So just a huge interest in Florida State. But what you may not know is that FSU also has the highest four-year graduation rate in the state of Florida. And I know as a parent of a college student, those are things that are really important to me. I want to make sure that my student is being able to enter into the university and get a quality education, get all the classes that they need, and be able to graduate in 4 years. And FSU does an excellent job with that. We also have a very low student to faculty ratio, so 21:1. And a lot of times I think people think because we are a larger research university, that also means that all our classes are really large. And I'm really glad to be able to share that with you, that they are not. 21:1 is definitely something that I think you're going to find is going to be smaller than actually some of the classes that we see in high school even. And then also, we just received our ranking from the U.S. News and World Report in terms of best value. And FSU was able to be the #1 for best value. In other words, you are getting the most for your money in terms of attending FSU and receiving an education. So lots of really just very good news there. We had a class coming in to Florida State that was just really very good. And we were just excited to be able to share with you that the 78,000 application, we got a few more than what Julie mentioned to us earlier. And we were just really being able to accept students from a number of different places. And so there are 67 counties in Florida. And being able to not only receive applications from 67 counties, but also being able to admit students from all counties were very, very important to us. So we are definitely a diverse university. We also were able to admit students from all the 50 states, from DC, from Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands, as well as 51 countries. And it looks like maybe my PowerPoint presentation is not moving. Just taking a minute here to see if we can get back on it. Okay, all right. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the students that we've admitted to the university. What do they look like? We're certainly, one thing is to receive a lot of applications, but are we able to receive applications that from qualified students? And that's what you were able to see earlier, was that there are students that are coming to the university that are excellent students. And so for the fall semester, you were able to see that students in the middle 50th had GPAs in the range of 4.3 to a 4.6. Test scores 1300 to a 1430, and ACT a 29 to a 32. Summer is a little bit lower, but not too much. GPA-wise was a 4.1 to a 4.5, with an SAT of a 1210 to a 1320, 26 to a 29. I say all of that, and the next thing I'm going to tell you is don't focus on the GPA and the test scores, because this is the middle 50th, but they are students that are 25% they're over, and they're also 25% they're lower that were admitted to the university. So it's important to keep that in mind. I would say a lot of our focus is going to be really paying a lot of attention to what the academic record is for the students. And so we're really paying attention to the rigor of the courses that the student are taking, the grades that they're earning in these courses. And so in fact, looking at our admitted students last year, 76% of the students had all A and B grades.
Hey, Doug,
yes.
Can I ask you to go back to the last slide with the GPAs quickly? I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we went ahead a slide.
Yeah, for some reason it's not showing up, and I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, it might be a technical difficulty.
Yeah, no, it's just having some of that technical difficulties. I'm not sure why it's showing white, but we will bring it back at some point. Okay. But what people think that we're looking at is, and this is part of our discussion, is there's usually a lot of focus on the extracurricular activities. And I will tell you, in my conversation with families, a lot of times that will be the first thing that they're going to ask me about is, what are the activities that we want to see for students? And the truth is that there isn't just a particular kind of activities that we want to see. We want to see really the range of activities that student would have. So in other words, we're not looking to just bring in students that are present in the student government. We are looking to bring in students with diverse backgrounds, because that's who we are as a university. And so that's something that's going to be important to us. And so being able to have a lot of different factors is something that we're going to pay attention to. So we're going to see if we can get this next slide. It's not wanting to move. There we go. Are you seeing this now? Yeah. Okay. So what we really look at is all of these different factors. And there's not one that's going to be much better than the other than I will tell you that the academic part, hands down, is going to be the focus. Having 3 years of the work in a classroom setting is going to be a really good indicator of your success in college. So we are going to pay a lot of attention to that. But you can tell that there's all of these factors that we're going to take into consideration. And so for us, it's really balancing all of this and creating, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, is creating this community here at Florida State where we're able to look at all of these factors as we do our evaluation process. You hear this whole idea of what is holistic review? And I feel very often that the holistic review is a word that's kind of tossed out there, but it's not really clear exactly what it is that means. I think the most important thing you could take away from that is that there is not one single factor that will determine if you're going to get admitted to the university. And I think for some, that makes it perhaps a little bit more difficult because it's easier for us to say that if you have a GPA and you have a certain test score, you're going to get admitted to the university. But we are not going to be able to do that. There are all of these factors, other factors that we're going to take into consideration that I just shared with you. But I think what is important for you to know is that our determination in our evaluation of students, it's very much mission aligned. What is it that we as a university, what is it that we want to have in terms of students coming to the university, graduating from the university? What is the best fit for who we are as Florida State University? And in bringing in these students, it's also that they're going to bring with them their talents and that they're also going to then be able to enhance the university. And I hope that you've had the opportunity to see some of the many success stories that we've had on Florida State. You know, our graduates do fantastic things. Our current students are doing fantastic things. And I like to think that we've had a hand in making sure that these students are coming to the university. And not only are they able to share their gifts with us, but we're also have a university environment that allows them to grow so that they can then, once they graduate to university, go out in the world and do fantastic things. So lots of factors that will come into consideration for what we are looking at as we're making our admissions decision. Most people, at least if you're a graduate of Florida State, are familiar with the virus, artes, mores, strength, skill, character. And these virtues are really at the core of who we are at Florida State. And we have incorporated these core values in how we review our applications at the university. And so what you are seeing here is that we break it down and evaluate applications according to these 3 values. And so the strength is really for us when we are diving into the transcript. And we are not as focused on a singular GPA. We're really looking at the courses that the student has taken, the rigor of the courses, which are really more when we talk about, is this an AP class? Is this a dual enrollment course? Is it an honors course? What is the grade trend? And also seeing and evaluating the student's performance at the particular high school. And so one of the things that we will hear often is sort of that kind of misconception is that we are evaluating students and comparing them from school to school. And we don't do that. We look at the student in the context of the school that they are attending. So what is being offered at the school that they are attending? What have they taken advantage of that is being offered? How would they have excelled? And so we are really going to be, if we're not already familiar with the school, paying attention to what the high school profile looks like so that we can better understand how the student has grown in that academic environment. The second value, artist or skill, really goes back to when you're looking at all the extracurriculars or the non-academic factors that students will bring with them. So this is when we really pay attention to what is the student is doing outside of the school. And so this is an opportunity for us to learn more about the student. Do they have a job? Do they have responsibilities at home? Are they playing soccer? Are they doing karate? You name it. All of those things that really helps us have a better idea what it is that the students is enjoying doing outside the classroom. And then last but not least, and this is something that is really very near and dear to our heart, is mores, which we, for us, translate into character. And I would caution you a little bit in the sense that, no, we're not judging people's characters, but we are really interested in learning about the student and who they are, so that we can better understand if we feel like they would be a good fit for our university and who we are as a community. And so when we look at character, it's really the combination of all of these factors in determining if we feel like this student, based on what they have shared with us, if the student would be a good fit for our university. And so this is not necessarily what all other universities are doing, but for Florida State, I think this may come as a surprise to some, is that, being able to align our application review process with virtues that are central to who we are as a university is really very important to us. I did want to just touch on test scores briefly. It's such a divisive issue, if you will, but you should know that for the state of Florida, all the public universities are required to request test scores of their applicants. And so in Florida, you must submit an ACT and SAT test score. It is not an institutional choice. And so that's something that our Board of Governors wants to continue to require. There are other states that also require that, but not many. But I think what you're going to find too, if you're applying to other institutions or looking at other institutions outside of Florida, very often, if you're looking at scholarship opportunities, you will see that test scores will be a requirement. But for admissions purposes, you will need to have an SAT or ACT test score when you apply to Florida State. What is going to be important for you to know is that we allow our students to self-report all their test scores. They will self-report their test score in their application student portal. Why is that important? It is important in the sense that at the time that we are reviewing applications, it allows the student to be able to provide us with new test scores immediately within 24 hours without having to have contact a testing agency and require them to have them sent to the university. So it really helps facilitate the process of applying to Florida State. We do require students that have been admitted to the university before they can enroll at the university, they have to submit all their official test scores. But at the initial review of the application, we do allow them to self-report. Students should self-report all their test scores because we use a process that's called super scoring. And super scoring is we take the highest sub-scores for each of the testing that they have taken to make a new total score. And so that really means that the student can only do better even if they took the test score, let's say 3 times, and the second time they took it, they went down in all areas. Well, then we'll just look at your first test attempt that you had. And then perhaps the third time that you took it, you increase your math score. So we will then go ahead and take that higher math score. So it's really in some ways also allowing students to continue to improve on their test scores. And so it's important for students to know that as well. It is important for us to focus on access to the university. And with that, I mean being able to, one, make the application process as accessible as possible for all. And we put a lot of time and effort into that. And so we currently have 2 applications available. One is through the Common App, which currently they have about 1,000 members. And then we have our own institutional application. We do not have a preference on what application the students should be submitting. They should be submitting just the one that they feel most comfortable with. But having multiple application options is a great opportunity to make sure that the student have the choice of what application that they want to complete. We allow students that qualify for an application fee waiver to be able to indicate that on their application and therefore automatically waive their application fee. So removing those bureaucratic hurdles that some students are facing elsewhere. For Florida State, we are able to make that a seamless process within the application. We allow students to self-report their transcripts. So they have their own transcript and they self-report through a web tool exactly as it is listed on the transcript. Their courses, their rigor, the grade, is this a semester course? Is this a year-long course? So it matches exactly what it is on the transcript. And again, for those students that have been admitted, their acceptance is conditional on receiving that final high school transcript where the information will need to match exactly what the information was that they had listed in their self-reported transcript. And as I talked about a little earlier as well, allowing students to be able to self-report their test scores as well. All in all, which makes this easy for students to be able to apply to university. And that helps students with the access to all the information, but also perhaps just as important, making sure that we are removing some of the anxiety that so many of our students are feeling as they're going through the application process. New for this year is the introduction of what's called early action. And this is an option for Florida residents. And what that does is that allow our Florida residents that have submitted all items that are required for admissions consideration. So application, the application fee or the fee waiver, self-reported transcripts, self-reported test scores, the essay, as well as the list of activities. If they do that by the October 15th, they will have a decision by December 15th. The decision to offer this to our Florida residents was largely coming from comments and in conversations that we've had with students and their family members in the last year, where often FSU was their first choice. And it was difficult and stressful when they submitted their complete application in September, but wouldn't get a decision until mid-February. So we were excited to be able to introduce this new application plan. It's not binding, so students are not having to be tied into Florida State, but allowing students that are very interested in FSU to be able to get their admissions decision before the end of the year. The feedback we've received today has been very, very positive, and we've heard from many, many students and their family members that this was something that they were really looking forward to, being able to get their decision from FSU back sooner. The other thing that I think is really something that you can't really appreciate until you've submitted an application, but once you've submitted an application, you'll appreciate how important this tool is. And that's what we call the application status check portal. And that is a portal that the student will gain access to once they have submitted an application to the university. And this portal is their home for the whole process of applying to Florida State. And so it has all the information that they need in terms of being able to see what has been received with the university. It has a lot of information about different offices and services that are offered at the university as well. And once we give our admissions decisions, that's where they're going to learn of their admissions decisions. And so for the accepted students, they're able to see that there, and then they also get an acceptance packet. For students that are being deferred or are given another pathway to the university, they're able to access that information in this portal as well. And so this portal has really a great opportunity for the student to stay in touch with us and being able to see different type of messaging that we feel are important to be able to share with the student. And so just another example of how we want to make sure that we are able to share information with students quickly and efficiently. These are some of the common admissions myths that we see time and time again. And the first one is college is really hard to get into. And I think what you will be surprised to hear perhaps is that more than 80% of all four-year colleges will admit more than 50% of their students. And so the truth is there are thousands of colleges, some great colleges out there that are admitting students readily. There are a few, and I think we all know who some of those schools are, where we hear that they have a 2% and a 3% acceptance rate. But that is rare. That is not the common denominator for all the college admissions and universities in the US. So I think that that's an important sort of point to kind of keep in mind. What is important is making sure you do your research beforehand and knowing what exactly it is that the university and college that you're applying to, what it is that they are looking for. So, where are you academically? What are your test scores? What is it that the university is finding as something that they value in their application process? And so being informed and being aware is going to be very important for you. The other thing is getting all A's is just your gateway to getting admitted to the university. And that's not true either. We have plenty of excellent students that also will receive some B's in their courses. Some may even have a C or so. Once you get below a C, though, that's when things get much more difficult. But it is important to keep in mind that we, again, are looking at your record for all 3 years. We're looking at the grade trend. We're looking at the rigor of the courses. And we're also paying attention to what you're taking in your senior year. And so we want to see students that are continuing to challenge themselves in their senior year. And if you were an all A and B student earlier, we're expecting you to be an A and B student in your senior year as well. But just know that we are admitting students that doesn't have all A's and B's, because there are other factors that we're looking at as well. Test scores are, what's going to make and break you for entry into the university. And again, it's a myth. Different colleges and different universities will have different emphasis on their test scores. For us, it's one of many factors that we look at, but it is not the deciding factor as to if you're going to be offered admission to the university. It's just one of many things that we'll be looking at. One of the things that I hear very often is you need to take as many AP classes as possible. That is a must. In fact, if you can take 7 AP classes in your senior year, that would be the best thing to do. And that is not the case. In fact, many of us admissions directors get very concerned about the level of anxiety and stress that students are facing while in high school. And we believe in balance. It is important that the student and their family members are really finding what is that perfect balance. So making sure that you're challenging yourself, but not too much. We don't want students to be not sleeping at night. We don't want them to have anxiety over not taking enough AP classes. We want the students to, with their guidance office, with you as a family members, making sure that you're taking a curriculum that best prepares you for going to college and challenges you, but not too much. We want you to have a full and rich high school experience. The more clubs and activities on your resume, the better. No. In fact, in some ways, if we see a lot of it, and we also then look at the grades and see that maybe those are not as strong, we really would have wished that the student would have focused more on the academics. The extracurriculars are those things that you are hopefully participating in because you are very interested. Don't engage with activities and take participation in clubs and organizations that if you're not interested in it. If you want to volunteer because that's what you like to do, then you should do it. Don't do it because you think it's going to look good on a college application. Be a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout if that's what you love to do. But it's really more of an individual choice. And again, yes, we're building our community. We want students with a lot of different types of experiences. Colleges wants well-rounded student, and that's something we hear time and time again. And very often the question is posed, well, what's a well-rounded student? And, I don't know that there is an easy answer to that question, to be honest with you. And for us, that's not really a criteria for us. We are looking at each application and through the lens of what we feel is important, through the strength, skill, character, and trying to decipher if we feel that the individual would be a good fit to the university. Again, the students are bringing skills to our university, and we want to make sure that the student is going to flourish at the university. And so based on what they have shared with us, we're trying to ascertain as to if we think this is going to be a good fit. We talked a little bit about this earlier, as I had mentioned, that more colleges accept students for admission than what you would believe. The criteria is going to be different from year to year. And I will tell you that I do have parents that will say, my son and my daughter was admitted 2 years ago. Why can't their sibling be admitted now? And that is because it's based on the quality and the quantity of the applicant pool per a specific year. Lastly, I think the other part of it, I think, is really important. There's so many different ways to get to Florida State. It's not just as a first-year student. We have a fantastic partnership with TCC, Tallahassee Community College, and students have an opportunity to take the pathway of going through the TCC to FSU Aspire program that offer a lot of different types of services, making sure that student will be successful at TCC, and then also setting them up for success at Florida State. In addition to that, we also offer Seminole Pathways, which allow students to start their experience with Florida State at one of our study centers for a semester, or doing a year, or maybe going to the FSU Panama City campus, or even going to another state college and transferring to FSU after one semester. So there's lots of different ways of getting to FSU. And that's one of the things that I think is setting FSU apart, is that students want to graduate from Florida State. We can make that happen. We just can't promise that we can admit all students as a first-year student. Preparing for this process is important. I would tell you the number one thing is read your emails. And we know that this is going to be a chaotic times in some ways, because you're applying to several different colleges and you will get a lot of emails. Email is the number one form of communication, and it's the official communication with our applicants. And we like to think that all our emails are important. So make sure you read them. Pay attention to the deadlines. The deadlines are there for a reason. And so, we want to make sure that you start early and not wait until the last minute. Last year, for our December 1st deadline, we received 20,000 applications within that week before the deadline. Just crazy, right? But what happens then is that when it's that close to the deadline, there is not a lot of time if something went wrong, if something was missing. We don't have a lot of time to be able to communicate with that. So make sure you start the process early. Be thoughtful about the schools that you will apply to. I think that goes back to what I had talked about earlier, doing your research, making sure that you have really looked into all the different institutions. It's not a competition about applying to as many colleges and universities as possible, collecting acceptances. You really want to be thoughtful about the application process, because you're needing to put time and effort into it. And so be thoughtful about the colleges that you decide that you want to apply to. Maintain your effort through the senior year. I cannot emphasize with you how important the senior year is. When you're applying, the transcript will only have your 3 years of college work, and we will certainly look at that very, very carefully, but we also pay a lot of attention to what your senior schedule is. And so once a student has been admitted to the university, once we receive those final transcripts, we do review every student that is coming to the university and look at their transcript and their senior year, making sure that the transcript is matching what was shared with us earlier, and that they have also met our conditions of admissions, which is having a successful senior year, earning the same grades as they had earned prior to admission to the university. So that senior year is not the time to be slacking off. Last but not least, focusing on the fit. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's really important that we are a good fit for you and that you are a good fit for us. But we also recognize that we're not perfect. And so, there are times where, there are going to be students that we are not able to offer admission to that still can come to the university and have been a fantastic student. But what we were able to do was to give a thorough review of the application and bringing all the information together in making our decision and what we feel is the best fit for our university. Just a closing thought, and I think that, this is such an important part of it, is, and I hear this from students, usually after we release decisions and students say, but you don't know this about me. Well, make sure that in the application process that you are feeling that you have shared everything that you want us as a university, as an admissions office, to know about you. I think it's really very important that you share your enthusiasm about applying to the university. I would caution, if you are applying to several different universities and you're including that in a letter or in the essay, make sure you change the name according to the university. Fortunately, some students will forget that, but just being able to authentically give us an opportunity to learn more about you is a wonderful, wonderful way of making sure that you're giving your all. This is, you put your best foot forward and you are excited to be, able to be considered for admissions to Florida State. And I think that goes for all universities. So make sure that you include all the things that you would want us to know about you. And last but not least, this is my contact information. I answer my own emails, I answer my own phone calls, and while I travel quite a bit, I always make sure to, answer my emails and respond to your questions. And so, don't hesitate to reach out. This is an opportunity to share information with you. And that's what we love to do. We love to be able to share what it is that we do in the admissions process, recognizing that there are a lot of myths out there, and there are a lot of thoughts, and most of it is probably untrue, to be honest with you. And so I think with that, I'm going to stop. I know we have some questions.
Yes, wonderful. Haga, thank you so much. I'll give you a chance to take a breath there. And I want to remind everybody, this will be online by the end of the week. Some of the slides you wanted to see again that may have gone quickly at the beginning, you'll still be able to see them when it's posted later. And what great information. So Haga, we have a ton of questions.
Okay.
Our friends came prepared, and they are very, very good questions. So what I'm going to do is a little rapid fire to see if we can get through as much. Some maybe a straight yes, no, up, down. Some may require a little bit more context.
Okay.
And we'll get through them. And then for you all, if the answer might not be as deep as you're seeking, always go to the admissions website. Haga's contact information is right there for you. And again, you'll be able to watch this webinar later this week. Okay. What percentage of first-year students are from out of state?
So and I can't give a quick answer for that, Julie.
Yes, no problem.
It's really actually for the university system in Florida, it's limited to 10%. So university wide in the state of Florida, we cannot exceed 10% of out of state for all the 12 public universities.
Yes. Does the state of Florida have a reciprocity agreement with the state of Georgia?
We do not.
Can you talk about the TCC to FSU option, and is it offered by FSU? Do you have to specifically apply for that? Is it an application process different from the FSU application?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we do have information about that on our admissions website as well. So admissions.fsu.edu, click on first year and look at decisions. And so you will see there that it talks about the TCC to FSU program. And so it's really an opportunity for students to be able to go there for 2 years, earn an AA degree, do liberal studies, and then transfer to Florida State where they would do the last 2 years.
Okay, this is Avi. I think you answered this question, but I think always worth repeating. I've been told certain schools with early admissions require you to attend the school if you get accepted early. Is that true for FSU?
So that's where you see a difference between early decision and early action. FSU has early action, and that is not binding.
Great. Tiffany said, what if your child exceeds in all areas and test score just below 50% of summer? Should they apply for summer session?
I would definitely recommend that the student apply for the term that they would like to start at Florida State University. So we used to, back in the day, if student applied for the fall, we would automatically consider them for the fall semester or for the summer semester. We no longer do that. So we want students to apply for the term that they want to start at Florida State. And there is, so for instance, if we're doing an early action, we are, for our decisions that we're giving on December the 15th, there will be students that will be admitted, there are students that are going to be deferred, and there's students that will be denied. That denied group will or the deferral group rather, will have an opportunity to provide first semester grades and new test scores and any other information they would like to be considered. And they will also then have an opportunity to share with us what application plans they would like to be considered for. So that would be another opportunity for the student to say fall, summer, Seminole pathways, etc. And so I would say for this particular question, if she really or him really wanted to start in the fall, you should apply for fall. If they want to start in the summer, they should apply for the summer.
Perfect. My child's school does not rank its students. That was a factor considered in one of the slides. What happens in that situation?
It can only be to the advantage of a student. So it is not used to disadvantage student. It's not part of the many factors that we look at.
Perfect. How do you get a feel for the high school profile for out-of-state students?
So it's the same as it is for really for all schools. We get the profile usually is mailed with transcripts or downloaded from the Common App, or we actually do a lot of snooping on websites as well. So
yes.
It's really an opportunity for us to learn about the high school. We also, throughout the years, have been able to make connections with out-of-state high schools and their counselors in particular. And so, we currently have a contact list over more than 34,000 counselors that we regularly share updates about Florida State. And so I think it's fair to say that we definitely want to make sure that we are educated about the high schools that we are looking at and the students that's coming from there.
Very good. If doing the Common App, where or when do you pay the application fee?
So you will actually pay doing the application. You pay the application fee once you have submitted the application. So you will be directed to that once application's been submitted.
Does the early action, you're a champ, Haga, by the way, these are some prepared folks. Does early application and early decision apply for both summer and fall applications?
Yes, and that's a great question. There is no difference. We will be admitting students for early action for the summer and fall.
Great. And I think you mentioned this, but let's reiterate, what is the deadline for early action?
Deadline for early action is October the 15th, and those decisions will be released on December the 15th. The regular application plan has a deadline of December the 1st, and those students will receive their decision on February the 15th.
Very good. If a parent is an alumni, how do you suggest we mention that on our application for admission?
So there is nothing on the application that identifies that the student have family members that have attended to Florida State. But I think there are opportunities to be able to share that with us in the essay. And I've also seen students put it on their list of activities, to be honest with you. And so, all of those are options that they can go ahead and do that.
Great. Is there a preference? And again, I think you answered this, but I know we have some eager young students on here likely. Is there a preference between ACT or SAT or a benefit to submitting both?
There is not a preference. We take both of them. I would tell you that some students do better than the other on the test score. So I always encourage students to take both. And when you've taken both, then that can help determine what test scores that you want to use for retesting. Because the way we look at it is, unless you have a perfect score, there's an opportunity to improve your score. And so, basically, statistically speaking, once you've taken the test score 3 times, it really kind of plateaus. There's really not much of an improvement. Mm-hmm. But up through that time, we see improvements in students' test scores.
I think I have 2 good questions. And one is very important that you alluded to is deferring. In our role in alumni, heard a lot about this in the spring, yes. Students being deferred, which is an opportunity that's not a bad thing. And so this question is, how does the deferment process work? When are those notifications communicated?
Yeah, so I'm so glad we got that question actually, because this last year was the first time that we introduced deferrals. And so the way that we look at it is a deferral is really when we are just hitting the pause button and saying, we're not saying yes, we're not saying no either. We're just saying, we'd like some more information before we make our final decision. So it's really an opportunity for the student to provide us with more information. And so that's usually their first semester grades, new and higher test scores. They can submit another updated essay. They can submit whatever they would like. This is also an opportunity for us to be able to gauge how interested the student is in Florida State. So because on the deferral reply form, they are giving the opportunity to check off as many and all the options that we have listed that allows us to consider them for fall, summer, Seminole Pathways, which has 4 options between the Panama City campus, international program study abroad for semester, or the year abroad, or the spring transfer. And so, when we have a student that is telling us, hey, I just, I want to only start at Florida State in the fall. Okay, well then that helps us in determining, are there other things that we can consider the student for as well? So again, I think it's really an opportunity for us to learn more about the student and for the student to be able to share with us how interested they are in Florida State. Like they are willing to look at different options as well.
Very good. I have another question. I'm a veteran with an AS in business administration and decided to continue my education, getting an AA now from Daytona State College so I can transfer. Should I be concerned about having too many credits when applying?
No, there will be, for students that have attempted 90 plus credit hours, and attempted is the key, right? Semester hours of college credit. We do want you to provide a statement that allows you to explain your educational path so far, and also what you are wanting to accomplish at Florida State. Why is that important? Well, it's important because when someone has 90 credit hours, there really should only be one more year and they should be graduating from the university. And so we want to make sure that we are bringing students in with the focus and knowing that we have what they need in order for them to be able to graduate from FSU in a timely fashion. That's important to us.
Very good. And there seems to be a little bit of a common theme as we wind down here. I'll couple some questions together. Emphasis placed on legacy, or if you had a sibling that attended the university, how much goes into that legacy admissions process?
It is not an evaluation factor for us. Like when I had the slide that had all those little bubbles, that is not one that is listed. What really is different from Florida State is that in the event that the student was not offered admissions, we will go out of our way to work with our students that have graduates of Florida State to get them to the university as soon as possible. And not all universities will do that, but I think that's part of our fabric of who we are at FSU. And so that's something that we will do and create and come up with a path for the students so that they will be able to come to Florida State.
Very good. And last question, one piece of advice you would give to someone who does not know their major when applying to Florida State?
Apply as undecided. Please apply as undecided or exploratory, as we call it. What people don't realize is that it is perfectly fine. And we actually encourage it, and we actually prefer that students, when they are undecided or are not sure, that they indicate that on their application. It is not held against them. In fact, if we were to share the 5 top majors from FSU, even though exploratory and undecided is not a major, that is one of our top 5 indicators for students. And so it really just, what it allows us to see is that this student have a lot of different interests perhaps, and want to take advantage of the great liberal arts education that we offer at Florida State. And we have lots of resources available through academic advisors. We have an advising program that is nationally recognized. And so we will take good care of them. We will make sure that by the time that they get to their junior year, that they will be able to declare their major with confidence. But go ahead, by all means, put undecided and exploratory on your application. It will not be held against you.
Very good. Haga, you have just outdone yourself tonight with us. Thank you so much. I know how busy you've been in the season. For those of you who, again, want to view this, it will be online by the end of the week. We appreciate your time. Be sure to check out the admissions website. Also, be sure to check out the Alumni Association's calendar of events, find a club in your area, meet some local alumni, and look up the Student Alumni Association for those of you that are students on this call tonight with us on the webinar. There's a lot of great resources for you as you come in. As Haga said, we will take very good care of you. It's a great place to be. With that, we'll conclude, and I appreciate your time, Haga. And as always, go Noles.
Go Noles.